The second one is administrative leadership, and this is one that I think, again, we probably don't think too much about when we're doing a face-to-face experience, because the administration of the classroom becomes inherent in the classroom experience. I walk in, I have this presence, this authority. I'm the teacher, you're the learner. We understand each other's rules pretty well. I follow the long-standing traditions of giving you exams and evaluations. I submit those to the department at the end of the class in order to get you a grade and so forth. In the online environment, a lot of those dimensions change, and a lot of the way those processes occur change. So it's important for faculty members to understand and think about how the administrative aspects are different in this online environment. And it could be something as easy as, or simple really, as grade submission. How does that occur in the online environment, in the online classroom, and is it different than the face-to-face? Maybe, but maybe not. And it's something that you want to look into before you get into a teaching situation. The other ones here that kind of washed out were multimedia technology. I already mentioned to you was, well, here it is in about the middle of the pack. It's not too bad. Classroom decorum really got to the issue of managing the spirit of the class, the engagements, the netiquette we often refer to. And I'm going to walk down through a few of these items in each one of these in a moment, and it'll give you a better idea of what was contained in that particular competency. Technical competency is one I have to tell you I struggle with, because now technical competency is different than the multimedia one. Multimedia says, well, they know how to use videos and they know how to use audio and so forth, or images in the classroom experience. The technical competence says they know how to use the teaching and learning interface. And this is different because it means that you now have a learning management system, an LMS. For example, we're currently using Angel. Other institutions use Blackboard and Desire to Learn, other systems out there. My belief is that the faculty member has to be competent and comfortable in that learning environment, because it's the primary interface, it's the mechanism by which we exchange information in this online environment. And so I was always surprised when it fell down to number 5. In my book, that one would have been up there with number 1 or number 2 at the very least, because my sense is if you don't have a good handle on the technical environment, the infrastructure, you're not going to be able to be active in your teaching and learning, or you're not going to be able to be responsive to your students because you don't know how to do a posting, or you don't know how to respond to a student's question in the online classroom. So, but that's my bias, and I'm just sharing with you actually what the results of the study are. And it's always interesting doing research because it can kind of challenge some of your long-standing beliefs. So these are a few of the competencies. I'm not going to ask you to read through these individually and try to understand what's in here. But if I read down through the tasks here, you would get a pretty good idea that the language around this active learning really talks about encouraging the students and engaging the learner in the content. This is something that's been on our radar screen for quite a few number of years now in terms of faculty members turning the tables, if you will, a little bit from a very passive sort of information delivery method to ones now where learners are really engaged in the teaching and learning process. And I'm hoping that you're seeing more of that now in the classes you're taking, because we know that when you participate actively in that learning experience, you may not learn as much content, that is the core facts and concepts and the details, but you're going to have a better grasp of the information that you do learn because you're more engaged, and it's helping you do a better job of assimilating that into your knowledge base. So I mentioned this one about administrative leadership. My friend Phil here, I'm not going to run the video for you at the moment, but I have a little video interview, and he talks about how critical it is that, and sometimes overlooked, this fact of really digging into and understanding the administrative pieces of that online classroom. I've already spoken a little bit of that. In Phil's role, he's saying that they make sure that before their instructors go online, they know the details of how to operate the course. The third one, we've talked about the importance of this, and you see a lot of items grouped together in this one, which is positive. But it talks about something that I'm increasingly referring to as teaching presence. That is, how are you visible as an instructor to your students in the classroom? Really a critical dimension in the online learning environment. For that reason I mentioned before, we're separated by distance and by time. In many cases, we can be teaching across multiple time zones. So how do we bridge that gap and build it together? And the role, the visibility of that instructor being present in that space is really critical. Now, you might think about as a learner, what does that mean in terms of your visibility in that classroom? And I'm going to suggest, just like we have in the face-to-face experience, I have some learners who are more engaged, they're right up front, they've got their hands up to every question, they're active, they're inquisitive. And you've got the learners who are sitting in the back, much more quiet, have to be drawn out a little bit to really see if they're getting the material. Doesn't mean that they're not paying attention or that they're not following along, just means you have to do a little more work to draw them out. Then you typically have this group in the middle who's sometimes there responding, but sometimes sitting back a little more passively. I think it's critical for you as a learner in the online environment to be visible, to be present. And that means cognitively, socially, and as a learner, and that you're really active with your instructor, you're active with your peers, you're really engaged. I think when you do that, you're maximizing that experience, so you're going to take away a whole lot more from that than if you are sitting back and only answering the questions when they're asked, or doing the bare minimum to get through. This environment, we know, requires more self-discipline, more self-direction, more self-management than it does in a face-to-face environment. And I think that by having you actively involved can go a real long way to helping you get to those self-directed, self-managed, and so forth, and for that to be a positive experience for you.